Hello friends, how are you? I'm Inamul Haksha. In this series of lectures, we are going to discuss the history of English literature and language. And now in this lecture, we are going to discuss the Old English period or the Anglo-Saxon period. First, we discuss the origin of language. Obviously, the beginning has to be origin. The origin of language, the origin of culture, the origin of literature, and how the whole things came up. You will see whosoever is in power will impose their language. Then everybody starts reading, then everybody starts writing and speaking their language. So whosoever is in power will impose their language. Then what happens? Then everybody starts reading, writing and speaking their language. And when we talk about the history of England, the island of England in ancient times was governed by different tribes. The earliest tribes known before the death of Christ were Celts and Gales. So these were the tribes who ruled in England for many centuries. So the language of Celts was Celtic, and the language of Gales were Gaelic. So it were these languages which were spoken before the death of Christ. And you can see that the new tribes will come, they will dislodge these ones and establishes their own language, and language will change. What does this mean? That when new tribes come, they will dislodge these new ones and establishes their own language, and language will change. But one thing must be very kept in your mind, but ultimately every language leaves behind its impact on the lives of the people, on the culture of the people, and on their literature as well. So you can see that whenever it comes, all the things keep accumulating. That one language group comes, the other goes out. The other comes, the older one goes out. And each group leaves behind its impact of their language and their culture as well. So, if we talk about to the close to the end of ancient times, means in the 1st century BC, England was attacked by Romans. Julius Caesar, so he attacked England on 54 BC, first time. Then again he attacked on 52 BC. So he invaded the island of England and ruled it for many centuries, and it continued up to 450. So obviously Latin became the official language of England during that time, and the Bible was also in Latin language. So whole Europe, very quickly the Europe turned into Christian. So this ruling continued up to 400 years, and the alphabets which we use today are known as the Roman alphabets, the A, B, C, D up to Z. So these were the alphabets which were derived from the Latin language. So these alphabets are also known as Roman alphabets. English didn't have their own alphabets during that time. So in fact, these were the alphabets which were used by in the whole Europe, in fact by the French and the British. So in short, you can say that so the Celtic and the Gallic languages were replaced by Roman language. First, there were Celtic and Gallic languages, but when Romans captured England, so Latin became the official language of England. And after that, what happened? Some Germanic tribes also invaded in England. There were three tribes known as Anglo-Saxons and the Jutes. So these were the tribes which came from southeast of the Russia, and these were the Germanic tribes. But Germany at that time was not a separate nation, so these were the tribes which came from Germany during that time, which came from the southeast of the Russia, not Germany. So you can say that in 450 BC, so these Germanic tribes replaced Romans. So at that time, and you can see that every tribe has their own accent. Like you can say Angles had their own accent, Saxons has their own accent, Jutes had their own accent, and Angles came in power during that time, and the word name England comes from Angles as well. As I've already told you, that whosoever is in power will impose their language and replaces the other languages and impose their own language. For example, if we take the example of India, so during the period of Muslims, Persian was the official language of India, but when British came there, so they replaced Persian language and they imposed English language, and obviously English became the official language of India, and still now you can see that English is the official language of Pakistan. So in short, you can say that in 14th century, English became the formal language to be written, to be spoken, and to be written. The very first poem known as Beowulf. So Beowulf was the very long poem known as epic poem, a long narrative poem. So after that, you can see that this poem became the source of inspiration for other writers as well. And if you see that Milton was in the 17th century, and he wrote his first book in Latin language because it was prestigious. But when he wrote Paradise Lost, he uses English language as well. So you can see that Caedmon was the first who used English in poetry, and then literature in English started coming about, and it was Henry VII and then his son Henry VIII that made English the official language of England, and that is the origin of language. So you can see after that Bede, he was the first poet, and he wrote a book known as the History of English Church and the People. So he wrote this book in the Latin language. So you can say that Bede was not the first poet, but actually Caedmon was the first poet who used English language in his poetry. Then the followers of Caedmon wrote poems in English language as well. So you can say that then there was a sign wolf, and you can see that in his poem that there he kills the first part of monster, in the second a dragon. So this symbolizes the two countries, the Asia and the Africa. So in fact the Britishers captured these countries as well, some parts of Asia and some parts of Africa. So during that time, poem was not in a rhyming scheme. So you can say that the entire poem was unwritten in Old English period, and then in the 9th century AD, the King Alfred came into the power, and during the time, prose in literature, prose came in English literature, because in the first there was poetry, there was no prose. So during this time, prose came in to the English literature. So books on various fields, on religion, on philosophy, and were written during that time. So you can see that during that time, there was also a great work, the Bible. The Bible was translated into the English language. So you can see these are some features in Old English period or Anglo-Saxon period, and the origin of language. So in the next lectures, we will discuss the Middle English and then the Renaissance and so on and so forth. So thank you for watching the video. For more videos and updates, don't forget to click the subscribe button. Goodbye.